Few names in history carry as much weight as Solomon's. He was not just a king. He was an icon of wisdom, wealth, and power. As the successor to his father, the legendary King David, Solomon made his mark on his time by transforming Israel into a prosperous and respected nation. Among his greatest achievements was the construction of the majestic temple in Jerusalem, a spiritual and architectural symbol that defined an era. Solomon's impact extends beyond the biblical accounts. His name appears some 300 times in the Old Testament and is also mentioned in the New Testament, but his fame is not limited to Scripture. Solomon is celebrated in legends and traditions across cultures, where he is portrayed as an unparalleled sage, a cunning ruler, and interestingly, even a practitioner of the mystical arts in some extrabiblical stories. Behind this towering figure, however, lies a rich narrative of challenges, difficult choices, and consequences that shaped his life and legacy. By getting to know Solomon, we are immersed in a fascinating journey that mixes glory and decadence, showing how even the wisest of men can succumb to human weaknesses. Childhood and ascension to the throne. Solomon, son of David and Bathsheba, was born at a time when his father was already ruling in Jerusalem, the capital of the kingdom of Israel. He came into the world surrounded by expectations, but also by tensions, since the family environment in which he grew up was far from peaceful. David's court was a place of luxury and power, but also of constant conflict and intrigue. David, known for having many wives and children, faced continuous challenges within his own family. Rivalries between brothers and disputes between wives created a tumultuous scenario where the struggle for prestige and influence was always evident. It was in this chaotic environment that Solomon spent his childhood, learning from an early age the weight of the responsibilities that would one day fall on his shoulders. The fight for the throne became even more intense as David grew older and his health began to deteriorate. Adonijah, David's oldest surviving son, attempted to proclaim himself king, organizing a ceremony to consolidate his power. However, Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, and the prophet Nathan did not stand by. They intervened strategically, reminding David of his promise that Solomon would be the next king. Thanks to Nathan's wisdom and Bathsheba's determination, David confirmed his choice, ordering that Solomon be anointed and crowned during his lifetime. Thus, the young Solomon ascended to the throne of Israel in the midst of a political crisis, showing that, from the beginning, his reign would be marked by challenges and crucial decisions. This dramatic rise to power shaped Solomon, preparing him for the complexities of leading a kingdom divided between tradition, ambition, and divine promise. The reign of Solomon, a golden age. Solomon's reign was one of the most remarkable periods in Israel's history, lasting approximately 40 years from 971 to 931 BC. Under his leadership, the kingdom reached unprecedented heights of prosperity, stability, and international influence. However, the path to this success was carefully paved by strategic decisions and decisive measures that shaped his administration. Early in his reign, Solomon faced the need to consolidate his power. To eliminate threats to his reign, he acted decisively. Adonijah, who had attempted to usurp the throne, was executed, as was Joab, a former general of David who supported Adonijah. The priest Abiathar was banished, and with these moves Solomon ensured that no internal opposition could challenge his authority. One of the most notable innovations of his administration was the territorial restructuring of the kingdom. Solomon divided Israel into 12 administrative districts, each responsible for supporting the court for 1 month of the year. This organization not only ensured the monarchy's continued supply, but also reduced its dependence on ancient tribal divisions, fostering a sense of national unity. In the economic field, Solomon showed exceptional talent. He transformed Israel into a strategic trading hub, controlling land and sea trade routes that connected different regions. Building a naval fleet allowed his ships to sail across distant seas, such as the Red Sea, reaching places like Ophir, from where they brought back exotic riches. In addition, he established lucrative trade agreements with neighboring kingdoms such as Tyre and Egypt, which generated impressive revenue for the kingdom. The result of his strategies was an era of unprecedented wealth. It is said that at the height of his reign, silver was so abundant in Israel that it was considered as common as stone. Solomon lived a life of splendor, but not just for show. His reign was a landmark of organization, innovation, and strategic vision. Despite all this glory, Solomon's decisions had consequences that would be felt by future generations. But during his reign, he established a pattern of prosperity that would be remembered for centuries as Israel's golden age. Solomon's great works, a legacy of greatness. Solomon's reign is remembered not only for its wisdom and wealth, but also for the impressive works he accomplished, leaving an architectural and structural legacy that would mark the history of Israel forever. Of all his buildings, the Temple in Jerusalem stands out as his most significant achievement and symbol of devotion to the God of Israel. The Temple of Jerusalem, built on Mount Moriah, a site that already held deep spiritual significance. The temple was designed to be a majestic sanctuary that would house the Ark of the Covenant. Solomon spared no expense in its construction. Tons of gold, imported fine woods, and carefully crafted stones were used. The temple, although modest in size by today's standards, was a masterpiece of engineering and symbolism, reflecting the power and faith of Israel. The dedication of the temple was marked by a grand celebration, with countless sacrifices and the manifest presence of divine glory. Other majestic buildings. Solomon also left his mark with other impressive buildings that served both administrative and personal purposes. The House of the Forest of Lebanon, for example, was an imposing structure adorned with columns made of cedar, reminiscent of a forest. The portico of columns and the judgment hall where Solomon heard and resolved disputes demonstrated the balance between functionality and grandeur. In addition, he built a sumptuous residence for himself and another for his Egyptian wife, the daughter of the Pharaoh. These buildings were designed to impress not only the Israelites, but also the foreign dignitaries who visited the court. Fortifications and infrastructure. With the security and prosperity of the kingdom in mind, Solomon strengthened Israel's borders with strategically positioned fortifications and ensured that the main trade routes were well protected. He also invested in the creation of roads that facilitated the movement of goods and troops, consolidating Israel as a commercial and military center in the Middle East. These works were not only reflections of Solomon's power, but also strategies that consolidated Israel as a prosperous, organized, and respected nation. Even today, his ability to combine religious devotion, administrative efficiency, and political vision is recognized as one of the pillars of his greatness. The wisdom of Solomon, an unparalleled gift. Of all Solomon's characteristics, wisdom is undoubtedly the most fascinating and celebrated. More than just a wealthy and powerful ruler, he was a man whose discernment and judgment became legendary, not only in Israel, but throughout the ancient world. The request that changed everything. The most defining moment in Solomon's life occurred early in his reign. In a dream, God appeared to the young king and offered him the opportunity to ask for anything. Wealth, power, and longevity were all within his reach. However, Solomon surprised everyone by asking for something completely different, an understanding heart and wisdom to rule his people with justice. This request pleased God so much that he not only granted Solomon wisdom, but also riches and honor as a divine bonus. The trial of the two mothers. This divine wisdom was soon put to the test in one of the most iconic episodes in history. Two women were competing for the motherhood of a baby, and the case had no witnesses who could shed light on the truth. Demonstrating brilliant reasoning, Solomon ordered that the baby be divided in half, with each woman receiving a share. Faced with this decision, the real mother, in despair, asked that the child be given to the other woman so that her life would be spared. With this gesture, Solomon revealed who the real mother was, resolving the dispute with a sagacity that would echo for generations. Wisdom in words. But Solomon's wisdom was not limited to his judicial decisions. He was a prolific writer, composing thousands of proverbs and songs. Many of these were recorded in Scripture, establishing him as a central figure in Hebrew wisdom literature. Much of the book of Proverbs, known for its practical lessons and profound reflections, is attributed to him, as are the existential and poetic Ecclesiastes and the lyrical Song of Solomon, which celebrates love in a beautiful and symbolic way. The Bible reports that Solomon also discoursed on nature, plants, animals, and even fish, showing a curious and wide-ranging interest in the world around him. He became a reference in wisdom, attracting people from distant lands, including the famous visit of the Queen of Sheba, who was amazed to witness the depth of his knowledge. A gift that echoes through history. Solomon is remembered not only for his intelligence, but for the way he used that gift to bring justice and understanding in a time of complexity. His words and deeds continue to be studied and admired, inspiring people to seek not only knowledge, but also the ability to apply it with prudence and compassion. Relationships and politics, strategy and enchantment in Solomon's reign. Solomon's reign was not only marked by wisdom and wealth, but also by his ability to build and maintain political alliances through strategic relationships. This ability helped him consolidate power and project Israel as a respected power throughout the region. Strategic marriages. Politics beyond love. Solomon was famous for his extensive list of wives and concubines, which together totaled an impressive 1,000 women, 700 wives, and 300 concubines. But contrary to what it might seem at first glance, many of these marriages were not just acts of affection or passion. They were, in fact, a central part of his diplomatic strategy. By marrying women from various neighboring nations and kingdoms, Solomon established alliances that ensured peace and security for Israel. One of the most notable examples was his marriage to the daughter of the Pharaoh of Egypt, a union that brought political stability and significant commercial benefits. Each marriage strengthened ties with other leaders, transforming Israel into a focal point of cultural and economic influence. However, this same strategy brought spiritual and social challenges. Many of these wives brought with them their cultures and religious practices, which later led Solomon to introduce foreign cults into Israel, causing tensions and contributing to his spiritual downfall. The encounter with the Queen of Sheba. Among Solomon's most famous political relationships is the visit of the Queen of Sheba, a figure shrouded in mystery and fascination. She is believed to have come from a prosperous and distant region, possibly Ethiopia or southern Arabia, attracted by the king's famed wisdom and riches. The Queen of Sheba was not just a curious visitor. She arrived in Jerusalem with a grandiose caravan laden with exotic gifts, including rare spices, precious stones, and more than 4 tons of gold. During her stay, she tested Solomon with difficult questions and challenging riddles, and was completely impressed when she realized that his wisdom and riches surpassed anything she had ever heard. The encounter symbolized more than a simple diplomatic exchange. It was a moment of international recognition of the power and influence of Israel under Solomon. Some traditions suggest that the relationship may have gone deeper, even inspiring legends about a possible descendant between Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, although the Bible does not confirm such accounts. Politics with a touch of charisma. Solomon's skill in dealing with foreign leaders and his marital strategies show that he deeply understood the importance of maintaining good diplomatic relations to ensure the peace and prosperity of the kingdom. Even with the challenges and controversies that arose from these choices, his political relationships were crucial to establishing Israel as a respected and influential kingdom in ancient history. The decline of Solomon, when wisdom was overshadowed. Although Solomon began his reign with divine wisdom and a promise of glory, his story is also marked by choices that led to the decline of his spirituality, governance, and legacy. The man who had it all, wealth, power, and intelligence, saw his life end in conflict and devastating consequences. The fatal error, the influence of foreign wives. As the years passed, Solomon became influenced by his many foreign wives, who brought with them their religions and cults. Despite God's warnings and the laws that prohibited the Israelites from engaging in idolatrous practices, Solomon relented. He allowed the construction of altars to pagan gods and even participated in rituals that were completely contrary to the covenant God had established with Israel. This idolatry not only offended God, but it also undermined the spiritual identity of the people of Israel. The kingdom that was supposed to be a beacon of faithfulness to God began to mix with foreign religious practices, creating divisions and discontent among the Israelites. Divine punishment. The promise of division. Solomon's choices had serious consequences. God, in his justice, declared that the kingdom of Israel would be divided as punishment for the king's sins. However, out of love for his father, David, God postponed this judgment until after Solomon's death. Thus, the king was able to end his days ruling a unified kingdom, but the stability of Israel was already compromised. In addition, God raised up enemies during the last years of Solomon's reign, such as Hadad the Edomite and Jeroboam, an ambitious leader who would rise to prominence after his death. These adversaries were instruments of judgment, setting the stage for the coming rupture. The division of the kingdom, the legacy of Rehoboam. After Solomon's death, his son Rehoboam assumed the throne, but his political ineptitude and arrogance hastened the division of the kingdom. Jeroboam, a former official in Solomon's government, led a rebellion and became king over 10 northern tribes, forming the kingdom of Israel. Meanwhile, Rehoboam remained ruler over the southern tribes of Judah and Benjamin, forming the kingdom of Judah. This division was not just political. It was a spiritual and cultural wound that redefined the history of God's people. Solomon's glorious kingdom, a symbol of unity and prosperity, was fragmented, ushering in an era of conflict and instability. A timeless lesson. Solomon's decline is a powerful reminder that even the greatest wisdom or wealth cannot protect one from the consequences of poor choices. His story teaches that true greatness lies in remaining faithful to divine principles, even in the face of worldly temptations and pressures. Despite his mistakes, Solomon's legacy continues to impact history, but his ending serves as a warning to all who aspire to lead with integrity and purpose. Solomon's legacy of glory and warning. Solomon is undoubtedly one of the most fascinating and complex figures in Israel's history. He left a remarkable legacy as a king who transformed his kingdom into a symbol of wisdom, wealth, and power. Under his leadership, Israel reached the height of its prosperity, being admired and respected by neighboring nations. His contributions to wisdom literature, such as Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, continue to inspire millions, and his building of the temple in Jerusalem stands as a spiritual and historical landmark. However, Solomon's life is also a powerful reminder of the consequences of poor choices. Despite his divine wisdom, he was influenced by his foreign wives, allowing idolatrous practices to enter Israel. This straying resulted in divine rebuke and the fragmentation of the kingdom after his death. His story highlights human frailty, showing that even the wisest can stumble when they stray from God's principles. Solomon is often seen as a harbinger of the eternal kingdom of Christ. His reign, with all its earthly glory, points to something greater and perfect, the eternal rule of a just and faithful king, where there will be no corruption, idolatry, or division. Thus, while Solomon's legacy is remembered for its ups and downs, it teaches us that true wisdom and security can only be found in a life lived in fidelity to God. His story, filled with both achievements and warnings, continues to resonate as a timeless lesson. Glory and power may be fleeting, but obedience to God is what truly defines a lasting legacy.